in the treasurer's report.
Okay, in the regular general fund, the February ending balance was $3,058,817.34. That includes first two of 4 advances that we've received on property taxes. You can see the 2 lines down, the bond issue debt service, $1,033,838.01, and we'll be paying on June 1st the first installment of this year's debt service. And then the negative amounts in the grants, we did do a cash request, was last Friday, and so those should be coming in any time, but right now we have negative $44,299 in IDEA, $12,953 in Title I, and $222 in the expanding grants, expanding opportunities. So those will be going away, or getting lower, I should say, next month. I expect they'll be in within the week. The total all funds, $4,396,934.78. And at Farmers National Bank, Premier Bank, and Star Ohio, the total was $4,288,680.03. We had outstanding checks, $194,697.31. We had a deposit in transit that was one of the advances, and another deposit in transit from the cafeteria. $302,000 for the advance, $172.06 for the cafeteria. So those total $107,474.75. Total cash on hand, including the $780 standard petty cash. When you do all the math, the balance does, the bank balances do match the financial report at $4,396,934.78. And as always, we have the appropriation report, the revenue report, and the disbursements report. If there are any questions on those, I can try to answer those now, and if not, that ends the financial report.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the financial report from Mr. Phillips?
So moved.
Taylor moves. May I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to new business, and Mrs. Carlson.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. I'm going to start with our food service director, Caitlin Pierce. She's going to give us an update on food service and some of the things happening through her programs.
Hi, everyone. Last week was National School Breakfast Week, and our participation was increased last week. We did a couple different new breakfast items, like smoothies, which the kids really enjoyed. ODE actually just announced that we will be continuing the free breakfast and free lunch. That's nationwide until September 30th. That's what we're currently doing. So all students K through 12 and as well in the community. So if there's any students out in the community, 18 and under, that needed meals, those are 100% free for breakfast and lunch. And that will be continued till September 30th. So on top of that, we will be able to feed any students that are here during the summer. So football, band, the Success by Six program. So any students that are here during the summer for any type of program, we will be able to provide them breakfast and lunch for free. And that's all. Dan.
Next up, we have Dan Zolik, middle school principal.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start off with our 5th grade student spotlight. The 5th grade teachers would like to recognize Michael Indato for her outstanding work and attitude in school this year. Michaelin is a conscientious student in class, and she is also friendly and respectful to her classmates. So congratulations to Michaelin for that recognition. Our Power of the Pen team participated in the district tournament in late February. We'd like to congratulate both the 8th grade team who finished first overall and the 7th grade team who placed third. Individually, the 7th graders Callie Shod and Mia Masacci placed 6th and 7th respectively. 8th grader Ethan Viano placed 6th, and Mandy Allman finished 7th. Special congratulations goes out to Ella Belcastro for receiving a best of round for her story, which was entitled Birthday Pancakes. Under the direction of Mrs. Rakita and Mrs. Staffeld, the following students will participate in the regional tournament later this month: Mandy Ullman, Jessa Flowers, Lily Johnson, Sean Updegraff, Ethan Viano, Ella Belcastro, Gia Guerreri, Emerson Cluse, Mia Masacci, and Callie Shod. And then on March 26th, Mr. Sabota and the South Range Middle School drama team presented The Murder Mystery at the Murder Mystery. Our 8th grade students watched the performance in person while we live streamed the play to the 5th through 7th grade classrooms as well as the elementary school. Both the performance and the remote feed went off without a hitch, so we'd like to congratulate them and recognize our drama team members. They include Olivia Lesky, Quincy Bailey, Ella Belcastro, Sophia Frommel, Toby Sell, Emerson Cluse, Allie Wellington, Haley Ackerman, Katie Woten, Kaylee Morrow, Brooke Herchick, Lucy Dispenza, Vanessa Farrow, and Chloe Fowler. That's it from the middle school.
Mr. Pagnotta, do you have anything for facilities and technology?
Yes, I do. On the technology side, and Mrs. Carlson can expand upon this, but I'm happy to say that we did procure some more Chromebooks, 360, and classroom computers for every teacher in their classroom. So this is exciting, particularly on the classroom side, because this is the first time in 11 years since we've been here that we were able to give or have a computer for every teacher to use. That's the same model, which makes our job a lot easier. And these computers will have webcams and mics to make if there is a need for remote, to make it easier. So that's happening on the technology side. Maintenance side, spring break week, the week that we're off, we are looking at replacing a bladder in our pressure tank. So we'll be without water service, but we're planning it for that day. And also we're doing our fire safety inspection that week. Traditionally it's that week because we don't have kids and they can come in and do all their testing to make sure that everything's working as it should. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sherry Lewis for our Director of Curriculum and Special Education.
Thanks, Mrs. Carlson. Good evening, everybody. It's not all the time that I give updates from curriculum and student services, but kind of timely. We just are finishing up our second grade, whole grade testing for gifted identification. So it's kind of the kickoff to our assessment season, if you will. And we're really looking closely at our data this year because of COVID and so many changes that we've had. So we're really trying to look at how do things compare, looking at last year's group and so forth. And I'm just tickled pink to look at the results of our second grade tests, where we have several identifications, 13 in the areas of reading, math, superior cognitive, and we have 17 more students who what we call screened, which means they will get a second assessment in the area of creative thinking. So really seeing that our kids are really excelling this year, which gives us some indication of, it's such timely news, I guess, because we're working on gap plans, and one of the things that we've addressed in our gap plans are not only students that we've seen with what we'll call a lag in content, but now we're also seeing a nice group at the top of that end too, so we can really look at differentiating instruction to meet our accelerated needs as well. So wrapping that all together, we have talked in the past about looking at teacher clarity as one of the professional developments that we were chosen to receive it from the State Support Team 5. And I anticipate that to be a rollout at the state level as well. So we're kind of lucky to be able to be one of the first ones to provide that professional development to our staff. And basically, we've done the kickoff of that already. We have had great feedback from staff, and look forward to really embedding that professional development on increasing kind of student achievement and really looking at meeting the needs of our students as we not only finish out this school year, but certainly look into next school year as well. So looking forward to that. I said it at all 3 building levels. It's just nice to have a curricular discussion. It's not COVID related, it's just good business. So it's refreshing. Really excited about our second grade kids.
I do have a winter sports good news from Mr. Farron. We just finally, this past weekend, our wrestlers finished up at state, so winter sports is now concluded. We've had another successful season. Our swimming team district qualifiers were Maddie Bennett in 4 events, Lexi Sheehan in 2, McKenna McGrath in 2 events, Lainey Poole in 1 event, Grace Calvin in 1 event, and Rogan Kelly in 1 event. So we had a great showing with our swim team that continues to expand and more people can continue to participate in swimming. League honors go to first team Krista Borton, Maddie Bennett, Grace Calvin, Lexi Sheehan, McKenna McGrath, Rogan Kelly. Second team, Adriana Haybaker and Lainey Poole. Boys basketball, they advanced to the district semifinals. League honors, Eli Taylor, second team. Girls basketball advanced to regional finals for 2nd straight year. NEA co-champs. League honors went to first team Izzy Lamparty and Lexi Giles. Second team Bree Kohler. Wrestling, 2nd straight NEA championship. First team, and I'm hoping these are all correct, so if anybody's listening to this and students are missed, we'll make sure we honor them next meeting. Gavin Pahanish, Michael Markulin, Nassim Molly, Jacob Starkey, Logan Kermel. Second team, Hunter Newell, Clayton Kramer, Luke Blasco, Chris Colucci, Braxton Bergman, Michael Lowley. State qualifiers, setting a record of 5 of them going, Hunter Newell, Jacob Starkey, Logan Cormel, Michael Markulin, and Ray Smil, all 3 placed 5th at state. I do want to highlight, because this is something really important, Logan Cormel actually lost and then wrestled back out of the losers bracket, back up to place 5th. So he really, a lot of dedication and heart to get him back up to there. So great job to our winter sport athletes. That would be it.
Okay. Thank you all very, very much. Great to hear all that good news, and just great to hear all of that. Next up, amounts and rates certification. Mr. Phillips.
Yes, this is an annual occurrence by Ohio Revised Code. We're required by March 31st to adopt the county auditor's rates every year. And basically on the second page, Schedule A, it shows that in our general 33.7 mils, the emergency levy, that's the one that was voted at 8.8 mils in November of 18, and it's down to 7.8 now. The permanent improvement, half mil maintenance levy that goes along with his buildings at half a mil. And our bond issue that was passed, it was voted at 7.4 for the building part of it. It's down to 5.3 mils. And so our total millage is 47.3 mils. And if there's any questions about anything else, I think everybody's been through this at least once. We did this last March and we were all here. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, a few board policy adoptions. Mrs. Carlson, do you have anything that you'd like to add on those?
No, just this is, you'd already had your first reading at the last board meeting for a few updated policies technology, social media, school safety, late arrival, or early dismissal. Those were all very basic. The big one was the Title IX regulations, updating our Title IX policy. So just asking for you to adopt those after your first reading.
Next would be, we're going to need an approval for the paper administration of the third grade English language arts assessment for the 21-22 school year.
Yes, the state of Ohio allows us to test our third graders who are held accountable for how well they do on their state test in third grade. If they do not reach a certain score, we are mandated to retain them. So a few years ago, the state started allowing us to revert back to paper pencil tests for these students, which is developmentally appropriate. It's a lot easier for them to flip back and forth. Actually, the stories are usually on one side, the answers are on the other, instead of toggling up and down on a computer screen. So it kind of takes away the technology element and levels the playing field with how they really are learning every day in the classroom. And we are seeing success. Our students have done better doing it on paper, so we just have to approve it every year.
Right, I knew, yeah, that's an annual thing, I knew that. Next up is the career technical waiver resolution for the 21-22 school year.
Yes, this is just for the middle school. There's a requirement for 7th and 8th grade to have career and technical courses. It's kind of a hard thing to put into the middle school without actually hiring a teacher and purchasing programs. So I will say there are some area organizations as well as the county that are working to enhance this and bring in other outside businesses and some university courses, some entrepreneurship down to support the schools into 7th and 8th grade, so there's no cost to us then, and we can get this back in. So we're hoping in the next year we can not have to waive this and we'd have something to be able to offer our students.
Okay, next is the approval of our 2021 graduating class.
Yes, in your board packet, there's a list of all the students who we're excited to announce all the students will be graduating for the 2021 graduation on June 5th.
Next, we have the IDEA funds public input that we're required to do.
Every year we have to publicly discuss our funds that we get through federal money for special education students under IDEA. Jim, what would you like to add to that?
Part of that requirement for receiving those funds requires that we take a public input if anybody has any input into what you would like to see that money used for. I don't know whether you want to do it now or when we come back through here.
I think we'll just add it into if anybody has comments in the comment section on agenda items. I think we'll come back to that. The GAP Closure District Plan.
Yes, I just want to share, many of us heard that Governor DeWine announced that the school districts needed to develop a plan for how they were going to address learning lags for the students due to COVID. So we are in the process of planning exactly what we're going to do, but I just want to share a little overview. We have until April 1st to finalize these plans, but the South Range Local Schools Extended Learning Plan will consist of instruction that could happen in June and August, as well as extended days throughout the school year. Our goal is to immediately address gaps that are identified through our benchmark testing, classroom progress, and if available, state test scores. The analysis of this data will provide our staff with areas of weakness to develop targeted intervention. We have decided to take this opportunity to evaluate not only the learning needs, but also the staff professional development needs. The plan will provide opportunities to address instructional needs for students and staff. We have discussed as an administrative team that we do not want to solely focus on this summer, but to also embed the intervention, acceleration, and professional development throughout the school year and into next summer. We are taking advantage of the funds provided to us through ESSER 2 to address the learning loss to impact the entire district. Each and every child has been impacted by the event of the last year, and we intend to put a plan together that best suits all of our students, not just the students who might have some lag. It will be posted on our district website by April 1st.
Okay. At this time, I would entertain anybody that has any questions on agenda items to step forward to the microphone, state your name, and you would have 2 minutes on each topic. Anybody?
I was looking at, I remember last year with the IDEA, I didn't know what that was, and when I looked at the agenda tonight, it was on there. My question is, how much money do we get for that? Ballpark, not exact, it's, you know.
About 230,000 this year, I think.
All right, because when I looked it up, I went on on the internet and just sort of searched it, and it looks like it's a legacy from like the 1970s when they created the Department of Education. They came up with this, and the statistics I find on it show that when that legislation was developed, it was supposed to cover 40% of the cost of educating a special needs child. Yet it only basically provides 15% of the cost even to this day. It's one of the things that it gets knocked on nationally, is that there's just, you know, the federal government comes up with a mandate and then they don't give you enough money to do the mandate. So my question is, do we have to take the money? And if we looked at not taking the money, are we better off not taking the money so we don't have to meet their requirements?
A lot of the requirements for this fund, we do use it to help offset the cost of special education resources and staffing. So it does help us in the fact that we have to service the students. It's the law to service all students. So we do use it for staffing, so it does help offset the cost of that.
All right, but it's the law, if it says it's the law if you accept federal money. What if you just say, we're not taking the federal money?
You still have to service students who need.
But you don't have to service them to the federal requirements, correct? You have to service. I mean, yeah, if you have a kid, you have to take care of the
I'll be
kid.
honest, we probably provide our students a better service than what the minimum expectation is.
There's other IDEA requirements that aren't involved in the IDEA grant, just the IDEA legislation that you looked up, that you still federally, if you want any federal money at all, we get Title I money, we get Title IIA money, we get Title IVA money, we get the IDEA. There's a lot of money that comes from the federal, and probably it used to be about $500,000. We're down closer to $425,000 a year now that we would be giving up. And we still, through the IDEA legislation, without that separate grant money, there's still IDEA basically protections for students with disabilities that we'd have to meet.
So basically, this is just another federally mandated, unfunded mandate.
Well, no, this is a grant, and basically this legislation, if we take that grant money, we're required to ask our community, what would you like to see done with that grant money? Now, originally, boy, you'd be testing my memory, so please let me off the hook number-wise, but when I came here, we had 3 or 4 special education teachers. We currently have 9. That's because you're not allowed to supplant that money. I couldn't have started paying those 3 or 4 teachers, but as the need for various social reasons was increasing for special education need students, we were allowed to use that money to offset a couple of teachers that otherwise we'd have had to pay out of the general fund, because as our population of special needs children was increasing, you have to, there's federal mandates that you have to have. Is it 12-to-1 or something? I don't know what you'd have to ask the educational people what the mandates are, but there are mandates, and we would have had to hire teachers. This allows us to pay, I think we pay 2 teachers with it, we pay some tutors with it, and 1 or 2 aides. So that's what we use the money for.
And about what percentage of the total cost of providing these services to these children is picked up by the federal government then? Like you're saying, they're giving us $400,000.
But there's also a line item, if you look on our state funding, there's also a line item for special education that comes on our regular funding from the state that's not the federal grant.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying here is the federal government's requiring us to do something and then not paying for all of it to be.
Well, that's what they do, and the state does it too. They're called
But
unfunded
my
mandates, and
question
we've been
is-
whining about them for years, but they keep putting them on us.
But have we ever,
I think we all 3 agree here that the federal government does this, and I think we could agree that it's kind of an unfunded mandate because it's not fully funded, but we're mandated to do it. But you're saying it's not an unfunded mandate, and that's, I think, where I'm getting confused here.
I don't remember saying that it's an unfunded, that it's not an unfunded mandate.
have we, I mean, my question is, have we ever examined not taking the money and whether we could, still provide adequate services to these kids without having to meet all these stupid Democrat-inspired federal mandates that they put in?
No.
So we've never studied that. We've never looked and said pluses, you know.
We would lose state
these are the
foundation.
pluses, these are the
We'd still
minuses.
have all the laws would still be there. And so we'd still have to do it. We just wouldn't get any money at all for it. Then it would truly be totally unfunded.
But it says, but the federal laws don't apply. My reading of it anyway, when I was reading it, the federal laws
We should
wouldn't
discuss
apply
this
if
at
you don't
another
take
time.
it.
This is actually a board meeting, not a
Well,
public
but yeah, I
discussion
mean,
meeting.
It's federal law that you have to discuss this. You have to have public comment on this.
Yep, you've
That's
commented.
a federal law.
You've commented.
Okay, but I mean, there's, you know, my question is, have we ever examined, if we haven't examined, why have we not examined the pluses and the minuses economically of whether we take this money or not?
I think-
If you don't educate a child with special needs adequately, and that's what you're saying, let's not do this,
No, I never said that.
well, that's what I heard.
No, what I'm saying is, if you take a look at what it costs to educate a special needs following all the onerous federal requirements that they put on for everything that the federal government sticks their finger into, whether it's my business, your business, anybody's business, the federal government puts all these stupid requirements on and then gives you a couple crumbs so that you have to, you know, and you take the crumbs to comply with them. My question is, have we ever examined not taking the crumbs, giving these kids an education, but not having to follow all the stupid requirements that the state ties that money to educate these children? I think you can probably give these kids a very adequate special education without having to administer, you know, without having to kowtow to the federal government and having to kowtow to all the requirements that are tied to this money.
My fear would be, because I'm formerly a special education teacher, so my fear is if you don't do one certain thing that the federal government mandates that you do, and parents expect that when you go to a public school, then you may have a lawsuit. That would be my fear. But
They
I don't
couldn't,
know.
but they couldn't.
The
sue-
mandates don't go away just because you take this money.
Rich, I'd be happy to meet with you and talk with you, because I'm really not sure, I guess I'd like to hear from you, sitting and talking, we could schedule a meeting like we did before about how you think it's impacting us. I know there's a lot of things written in the IDEA law, but a lot of that is written, and it might not actually be things that we have to do, or it might be things that are so seamless, it's not negatively impacting us to follow a lot of the laws for special ed. In fact,
The only thing
yeah, so-
required to do to get this grant money, we're required to do lots of things irregardless of the grant money. The only thing the grant money requires us to do is listen to this. Listen to the
I find
public.
that hard to believe, Jimmy, because the federal government puts strings on everything that they do. So there's got to be things that you are required to do based on the fact that you are sticking your hand out and accepting that money.
That and other money, yes.
Now, unless Ohio ties their grants to the federal, I mean, is that something that happens also? If you, I mean, in order to take Ohio money for these
Every
kids-
grant has strings, and a lot of it is more the compliance and documentation. So if they want to see that you've spent it correctly, that's majority of our strings, that we have to sit and submit things that, yes, it was spent on a special education teacher. Yes, it was spent on a tutor working with students for early intervention. Those are some of the most tedious compliance things we have to do, is just document we're spending your money correctly. But otherwise, when you walk in this building, it's not making us jump over hoops and all this stuff, because it's what we do daily for kids anyway. So it is a benefit to us to have an extra bit of money to help be able to provide the service.
All right,
But
that
the
basic- I mean-
compliance part is the tedious part to us, but it really, if you document everything, you run everything through the right accounts, you can pull it in a spreadsheet, and you can, I mean, they just did it, actually. They sat and met, and they sent the compliance stuff through. It took them just a little bit of time, and check your box, we're spending it right. That was our compliance part.
All right, so in your opinion then, or you feel that the money is worthwhile, that the regulations, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at, the regulations are not so onerous that it makes the money not worthwhile.
There's a lot more written in that law than what we really are impacted by.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. With the rates, Jim, I mean, I've talked to you, you know, I don't know about most people in Beaver Township. I know the neighborhood I live in has had a tremendous increase in our property taxes, 25%. You said you're getting an extra ballpark 150,000?
I
from
didn't
the
say I'm
increase?
getting that, I'm saying by the calculation, that's what would come.
Well,
But
that's
you
what
have
you're
delinquencies from past years that come in, you have current delinquencies that go out, it's all a moving target. So no, I did not say I'm getting 145,000. The calculation would show, in a perfect world where everybody paid on time, that's what it would generate from the valuation increase on inside millage.
And that's based on everybody in Beaver and Green Townships, that's all you're getting is an extra 145?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's not what I'm getting. That's what the formula says.
Well, yeah, but in essence.
I'll tell you next year
will-
whether I got it or not.
It will generate, you're estimating it will generate an extra 145,000.
If there were no
for the district.
delinquencies or any of those kinds of things that would, yes, that's what.
All right, so if levies generate a specific millage and they're never supposed to generate additional revenue, and all of our taxes went up 25%, whose taxes went down? That's my question that nobody seems to be able to answer.
They don't come and talk to me and at board meetings if you were on the side of the tracks where your valuations went down. But basically, when the valuation goes up, we do get more money on the inside millage. The way your tax rates went down, but if you were on the side of the tracks that your house increased so much because yours went up 25%, mine went up 17%, the auditor's valuation of my house. So yours went up more than mine. And so, but the rates, the 7.8 mils that you voted at 8.8 mils 2 years ago, that's where it's going down. Your tax rates are going down, but if the value of your house is going up, just because your tax rates go down doesn't mean your tax dollar volume might not be going up.
So then the levies that we have in place currently, other than the inside millage, are set to get us a certain dollar amount, not a certain percentage. Is that correct?
That
Okay.
is correct.
Okay.
Levies
There's two
don't
ways that
generate-
happens.
Yeah,
The
it's
the
the
formerly
inside millage
three
where
emergency
you're getting
levies,
some more
that's
money.
now the combined one levy. That was voted in at 8.8. It's now at, what did I say, 7.8
Yeah,
mils.
7 point something.
But then there's also the continuing levies because of House Bill 920 that you've heard me talk about, Rich, years and years ago. In 1976, when the legislature passed House Bill 920, the Ohio Department of Taxation now has a tax reduction factor so that even our continuing levies have the same effect as an emergency levy. It's basically a dollar amount. So we have 24 voted mills here in Beaver Township and Green Township. We're collecting 10 point, and there's a six digit, 10.490, I don't know what it is, but it's just, so we're collecting way less than half of what was voted. That's because of the tax reduction factor on continuing levies. On any emergency levies, now we only have the one, it goes down because it's designed, what is it, $1.7 million when we combine those three levies, it brings in every year.
I think the thing that so basically though, when we vote on a levy, let's say it generates $1 million, even when my taxes go up, and I'm paying you guys an extra $800 a year starting this year, or last year, whenever it goes into effect, it still generates $1 million, correct? You're not getting any more than the $1 million that we voted on.
That's right, on the emergency levies,
So
that's
then,
right.
if everybody's taxes are going up, where's all this extra, somebody's got to be paying a heck of a lot less.
Well, you're
Somebody-
getting
somebody
some
is.
extra on the inside millage.
Yeah, but I mean,
That would
he just said it's only
increase.
145,000, Ralph. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's some, I mean,
I mean, that doesn't explain where my extra $800 is going. You know, and I mean, I'm just telling you, I've told you, and I know you don't want to hear it. You cannot put another levy on. It will not pass. I mean,
we haven't for a long time. So.
I'm just telling you, I know, financially, when you did the 5-year financial forecast, it doesn't look good 2 to 3 years out. I've been coming to these board meetings for the last couple of months. We haven't made any cuts. So my question is, what are we doing? That's my biggest question. You're facing if I remember right, in about 3 years, you're facing a $2.5 million deficit or $2 million deficit. What in the heck are you guys going to do? Because time is running out.
But we just go back, if you go back in history and look, there's been deficits. We have never deficit spend. We've done something in that, and that will be the case. Remember, it's a snapshot. Anything that changes, just like the COVID money that's come in. Jim didn't calculate any of that in his 5-year forecast a year ago and that. So those change the outcome of that.
It just seems to me like we're not reducing spending, though. I mean, when I moved out here, Ralph,
when was the last levy that we passed?
2004 for operating.
For operating, 2004. So we've been staying within that budget since 2004. And I'm sure if he went back and pulled 5-year forecasts, somewhere between 2004 and now, we're showing deficit spending a number of times. We made cuts, we aligned, so we weren't deficit spending.
Well,
that
what we've
stuff.
mostly done is rob Peter to pay Paul. We went to open enrollment.
You can say whatever you want to say, but the point is, we haven't added any more levies since 2004.
No, we've gone to open enrollment, so 30% of the kids that are coming here now, their parents aren't paying the extra $800 a year that I'm paying.
And
That may
I do
be
think
the
there is a
case.
valid concern here, though, that if we don't make some smaller cuts now, we're going to have to make larger ones later, assuming we can't pass a levy. So I think that's definitely a valid concern. So, I completely get where you're coming from there.
I mean, I just think having put 3 kids through here, we're still running a little bit on the fat side when it comes to.
Well, that's your opinion. I mean, obviously, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll go back through and vote on everything. First up, mounts and rates. May I have a motion to approve the mounts and rates put forth?
So moved.
Taylor moves. Can I have a second? Brian seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call.
Ralph Wintz,
Yes.
Taylor Christian,
Yes.
Brian Bagwell, Amy White.
Next up will be the board policy adoption of the few policies we have. May I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Amy moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the resolution approving for the paper administration of the third grade English Language Arts Assessment for the 21-22 school year. May I have a motion to accept that? Brian moves. May I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the career and technical waiver resolution for the 21-22 school year. May I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Taylor moves. May I have a second? Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the class of 2021 for graduation, providing they meet all the requirements. May I have a motion to accept that? Brian moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that brings us to non-agenda items and public participation. Anybody that would like to comment or on non-agenda items can step forward at this time.
Oh, my name is Amy Beek. I'm a resident of Beaver Township. Going back to the property taxes, the 10%, what was the 10 point something? What was that in relation to?
That's what our current collection on continuing millage, continuing meaning when those levies were voted in, they were voted in without a time frame. The emergency levy is for 10 years, so that won't be, you won't be asked to renew that until 2028. The continuing levies, you're never asked to renew because they're continuing.
And didn't that hit the $20 million floor?
There's no such thing as a $20 million floor. There's a 20 mil floor.
That's it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's why that rate was 24 mils, and now it's gone down to 10 point, whatever the 6-digit number is. And that can go up or down depending on, when you're at the 20 mil floor, it may actually go up a little if the valuation doesn't support you being at 20 mils. If the valuation and your millage doesn't support you being at the 20 mil floor.
So in our case, didn't that go up? Wouldn't it have been?
I didn't compare it this year, but if you want to stop or call me in the morning, I'll get last year's sheet and compare it to this year's on that particular levy.
Okay, because I think we've hit it for multiple years, correct?
I'm sorry?
We've hit this multiple years.
Oh, we've been on the floor for a long, long time,
So
yes.
it really would have been 8, but we're paying 10.
The tax reduction factor, some years, most years it goes down, some years it does go up. If, like when there's a reappraisal, in this particular triennial update, it could have gone up from, 10.2 to 10.3, could have went down from 10.2 to 10.1. I didn't look at that specific line item. I just recently got our resolution tax sheet. I haven't had time to look at all the individual levies to see if they've gone up or down. I know all the other, the bond issue and the emergency levies, they always go down. I mean,
Right.
they never go up. The only time they'd go up in 2008 when everything tanked and valuations actually,
down.
were to the point where they had to increase to get that $1.7 million. At that time, it was 3 different levies. They actually had to increase the tax rate because the valuations of the houses went down so far. Obviously, that's not happening now.
Okay. I do have another issue of concern, and this was actually approved in the last February meeting minutes, and that was the purchase of the sour wine property. And I believe that the description that was in the newspaper is that this was going to be used as an additional entrance and exit from the property, improving safety and efficiency for sporting events. And it also could be used for Little League baseball and softball fields, as well as agricultural use for the science and agricultural programs. So I'm a resident of Middletown Road, and I am not in support of an additional entrance feeding additional traffic down our road. Our road used to be 25 miles an hour, and I believe it was last year, the township upped it to 40 miles an hour. When the school was built, the traffic on our road, including the buses, increased by tenfold. That road cannot sustain that amount of traffic. In addition, it used to be a blacktop road that was downgraded to a chip and tar. I think that the residents of Middletown Road have endured quite a bit since the school has been built. The sporting events that go on, the PA system, the band, they all face in our direction. And in the summertime and in the fall, it is relentless noise to the point where your windows shake. And it isn't just a football game. It's all day long. Those kids are out there on the field practicing, and that music is just booming through it. And then you have another game, and then you have another game. In addition, we have all this extra traffic coming. Now you want to put another entrance in.
Well, the paper may have said that. Well, we are not planning at this stage of the game. Now, it's not to say that there won't be a day comes when there is an entrance, but there are no plans as of today to put an entrance in there. But there was an opportunity to purchase that property. Those opportunities only come once basically in a lifetime, and that was the reason we elected to purchase that property at this time.
I believe that's why the tunnel was also installed, for safety and efficiency purposes. For
Yes,
sporting
you are
games.
correct.
And we secured a grant for that.
That's correct.
And the parking lot that the school is on has 2 entrances and 2 exits. You can exit off of 46 and enter on 46, and you can exit and enter off of Green Beaver. So having a third entrance, I don't see the value of it. But I really would like the school to consider being good neighbors, because we've been very good neighbors to you. And if the intention is to create a parking lot for additional parking with a separate entrance and exit onto Middletown Road, I cannot support any more levies for the school.
Thank you very much.
I also have one other item of concern. The statement was made that this could potentially be also used, farmed for agricultural area for the science and agricultural programs. And I believe in the last meeting minutes, it was stated under public comment, a concern regarding why we can't teach our elementary students multiplication tables. And I believe one of the board members made the comment, I don't know if it was Terry Lowy or Amy White, because you cannot see you guys when you watch this on YouTube. But basically, contact the state, because our curriculum is to teach what's on the standard testing. That's not on the standard testing. So I guess I'd like to know then, how is farming the land in the science class and agricultural courses on the standard testing if we can't teach timetables?
I was the one who talked about the timetables, and what I meant was like timing them, timing your multiplication tables, teaching kids while timing them, like can you do them in so many minutes?
You should be able to. We used to have timetable races in
arguing
fourth
that,
grade.
that's
I
not
mean, literally, we
saying.
lined up and we had timetabling, we had racing, we had timetable racing. You should be able to do that. You shouldn't have to get your calculator out. This should all be in memory. If it's taught, you're not going to forget it.
I'm not saying it's not taught that way. It may be, but saying them very quickly, like in a certain amount of minutes, that's what is not a standard.
You should be able to do that.
I know,
But
I don't disagree with you.
I have to be honest, I was concerned with the comment that if it's not on the test, we don't have time to teach it.
I don't think I said we don't have time.
I believe you stated at the state level, forced to teach certain standards, and teachers must, and teachers need to get a score on their scorecard. And multiplication tables isn't on the test.
Okay, well, multiplication is on the test. Saying them fast in a certain amount of time is not.
Yeah, that wasn't what the conversation, or the comment, I should say, that was presented. It wasn't a matter of speed. It was a matter of the ability to do it without a calculator. I think the emphasis on the conversation was as a holistic, having more of a concentration on academics and less on sports. So that when you walked into the school, you also saw students being recognized for their academics, not just their sports.
Okay, I think we've spent enough time on those subjects. So if you'd like to continue, the doors are always open and stuff if you that. But we're going to move on at this point in time. Thank you. Next up will be the. Oh,
I'm going to participate too, Ralph. I was the one that brought it up, actually, because I have to deal with kids that, you know, they can't multiply. I just had a 70-year-old customer come up and had an employee, and just to emphasize it, I said, so-and-so, what's 9 times 8? And she said, I don't know. And I'm sorry, I don't care what the state standards are. I don't care, you know, Amy, I know you're a teacher, but unfortunately, you guys hide behind the state standards. And I mean, I'd like to, the one thing I would like to do, I would like to thank the staff here, because this school has stayed open through this, you know, at least this school year, through the whole pandemic. And I think they should be applauded for that. Because you look at what happens down, like in the city of Youngstown, that superintendent, that school board, they should all be, they should be fired for what they've done to those poor kids down there. Those kids, I mean, you've got the most academically distressed kids in the state of Ohio having to sit at home and work on a computer because those people don't want to go to work. It's disgusting. So I'd like to applaud our staff for showing up. Thank you. You know, thanks to all of them. I think you guys have done a tremendous job. That said, we need to quit, you know, using the standards as an excuse. When a kid comes out of 3rd grade, you know, we have a 3rd grade reading guarantee. There should be a 3rd grade math guarantee so that they can come out. And if you ask a 4th or 5th grader what 9 times 8 is, the kid shouldn't have to get his fingers out or a calculator out to figure out what 9 times 8 is. I think we should, you know, if there's, it's just basics that we need to do. And I think one of the problems that we have, like I know I've gone round and round with Steve Rowan. You know, I push College Credit Plus. I would love to see us redesign our curriculum, and I've asked you guys this for probably 6 or 8 years now, so that the kids that are truly college material, the kids that are in the top 25 to 35, 40% of the class, those kids should be not just offered College Credit Plus, they should be encouraged to do College Credit Plus. I just had this discussion with my son today. We were talking about, he had a hard physics test he did very well on. I said, what was the class average? He said 65. I said, why is it so low? He said, because I think most of these kids come out of high school, they cruise through high school, everybody gets A's and B's, you're not really challenged, you get to college, and I call it academic laziness, because I think we encourage, and not just the school district, it's everywhere. These kids are not being rigorously challenged anymore. You need to get the academics up. I mean, the sports is out of control. I've railed against that. The sports is out of control. But if there's one thing, Beth, I think you need to do, in all honesty, it's get the, you shouldn't have all these kids graduating with an A and B average.
Okay.
When we went to school,
we've hashed.
Well,
you've hashed
she's
this.
not wrong.
Please
Ralph.
sit down.
It's-
Please sit
it's
down.
about
Your 2 minutes is up.
academics.
Please
should be
sit down,
first,
Rich.
sports
sit down.
second.
Sit down, please, Rich. Next up, February, March district update.
Okay, as I said, I wasn't sure if the list from Mr. Farron was correct. He did send me an update. Ray Schmiel was actually the NE8 Player of the Year for wrestling. I was wondering where his name was, knowing he won NE8 championships. He should have been on the list somewhere. I want to expand a little bit on what Mr. Pagnato mentioned. We did receive $359,000. I didn't want to mention too much the last meeting until I saw it in our account so I could actually see it. So we received roughly $359,000 in our ESSER 2 funds. They do come, in a sense, with things that we are allowed to use these funds for, and they will benefit us. So we will use them for our Learning Gap Plan. We have identified a couple different intervention programs that are built to run in like 4-week sessions. So we can offer 4-week sessions to kids, and it's nicely paced. It will fill in any gaps that we're having. I like to use the analogy, you got to have every rung of a ladder to climb it, so it'll fill in some of those missing rungs maybe, provide that. So we are going to look at offering maybe some summer transitional time, even kids who maybe just need that transition summer program from 4th grade to 5th grade because it's such a big jump. We're looking, Mr. Matos and I talked of running maybe a 1st and a 2nd grade one in alignment with the Success by 6 program, maybe having a couple grades and small groups in here. So we are going to use the funds to help pay for that, get that through. I did budget for food. I guess I don't need to do that now. So that's in there. So those are some of the things. Technology and diagnostic tools that we are using for gap analysis also can be used for these funds. Cleaning supplies, as you mentioned, Mr. Wins, we didn't budget in our forecast for additional cleaning. Fortunately, these funds have been able to help offset the cost of our cleaning supplies, which has been a godsend because they are pretty extensive. So we have some of those things. Mr. Pagnato mentioned technology. All the computers that he was able to purchase, we are hoping to have our district 1-to-1. So, all students would have access to a computer. All staff will be able to update their computers. As he mentioned, many of our computers that were bought with this building do not have cameras or microphones. So when they were doing remote teaching, they had to borrow one of our other computers that we have, the laptops for students. So at this point, everybody will be updated. These funds are going to pay for that. So we're very fortunate to be able to do that and get this taken care of moving forward, which will help the district's bottom line with some of those costs. I also want to talk about something really exciting. One thing we've really been trying to do is move forward. Plan as usual. We've been very successful this year. Though we've had a couple little hiccups in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, majority of that was staff and contact tracing. Middle school basketball wreaked havoc on us for 2 weeks, and then we were back to normal. But the actual contact tracing in our building has been almost zero with kids sitting next to kids. So we are looking forward to starting to plan some of our academic banquets. We did tell our sports teams they could start after testing, after prom, go ahead and have your banquets. We are moving forward with prom, so students will be able to experience prom. Our kudos to our band and choir directors. Because of how large our groups are, and we want to make sure everybody can come, they're looking for outside venues to be able to do the band and choir, so it is a full event and everybody can come. And thank you to the Canfield Fair. After speaking with Pastor Kelly at the church, he and I brainstormed and we talked about some of the things he does with the Canfield Fair to help his church, and it dawned on us, a really good place for us to hold graduation, and we didn't have to worry about how many people we could have there because of the sheer size of it, is the Canfield Fairgrounds. So we are going to be able to host a full graduation just as we typically do here. Everybody will be invited as usual at the grandstand. We decided not to use our stadium for the fact we're hoping, unless it's a giant windstorm or a hailstorm or for a reason we can't be outside, they feel we can have graduation even if it's raining a little bit, because there's enough room to back the kids up under the grandstand and push the stage up. So we're not affecting multiple days to reschedule. Maybe it aligns with somebody's graduation party. Mr. Rowan and his team are finalizing some plans. We will move up the time, so this week he will call all the senior parents and let them know the start time. I think we're thinking of 12 o'clock, but he's meeting with his team just to make sure. This will make sure the sun is also over the grandstand, so we don't have to worry about that. But we felt the covering will help. Nobody will get sun-baked, and we can just go as usual. So we're really excited about moving forward and just finishing the year off safely, still keeping our protocols, but business as usual for a change. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is executive session, but I talked to Mrs. Carlson ahead, and she does not need one. And before we go to personnel, I asked if there was any board member that had anything that they needed to discuss an executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.22 and Board Policy 0166. Oh, okay. Next up will be personnel. Back to you, Mrs. Carlson.
Okay, we have a few things. I've spent the better part of the last 2 weeks kind of going back to the beginning of the year and reviewing some things. So I did notice a couple things I need to ask for forgiveness in advance to do some corrections in here, but COVID has finally subsided and I can think clearly. So first thing, I do need to ask approval for the spring ticket takers. They'll either be for track or baseball, softball events, and that is Mark Giese, Amber Bancroft, Angela Rosen, Kristen Scott, Sarah Fischel, Brenda Pettit, Gianna Roan, and Robin Protein. For softball coach, Alexis Roach for a supplemental contract for the 2021 school year, Kylie Luckland, middle school track coach, and Morgan Zopar, also middle school assistant track coach. Here's one of these situations. I accidentally put Will Klusenik under the paid coaches. He knew he was a volunteer all year. I actually talked to him. So I do need the board to rescind the contract that was awarded to him and reapprove him as actually an unpaid volunteer for the school year. Nico Pritza is a volunteer unpaid for show choir choreographer for this school year. And then Cindy Maynard's elementary school counseling. Her extended days were put on, but it wasn't final on the .5, so I asked that you retroactively for the school year approve her as a part-time elementary counselor. Approve Richard Hura as a middle school administrative substitute for $115 a day. As I explained, we are losing our chemistry teacher, and still to this date, we cannot find a substitute anywhere. If anybody wants to go into science and education, you could get a job in a heartbeat. There are not many graduating. So he is going to assist Mr. Rowan, and Mr. Rowan will be up in the classroom. I do just want to publicly reiterate, if there's a true disciplinary issue, Mr. Rowan will step down and Mr. Hura will go up to the classroom. So we will maintain Mr. Rowan taking care of our students. Mr. Hura has been in the building all year working with our kids and stuff, so he's very familiar with our procedures. Also, it is working out very well for Chloe Freedy, Zach McKenzie, and Victoria Wellington. Remember, we had brought them on last meeting, so I would ask that for the remainder of this school year that you do approve them as Chloe as a bus aide and Zach McKenzie and Victoria Welling as our instructional aides for the remainder of the school year. On the next page, approve, I guess Devin Turvey was not listed at the end of last year also when the large grouping of people who are ticket takers and videographers, Mr. Farron and I noticed that, so he asked that I put Devin Turvey. He did all the boys basketball video game. He was the filmer, so I asked that you retroactively approve him. And then we have two very big announcements. So I ask that you accept the retirement of Kate Hall, effective at the end of the 2021 school year. Kate Hall has been a teacher at South Range Elementary for the past 25 years. Mrs. Hall has been a contributing member of the Elementary Continuous Improvement Team and was on the first PBIS committee for the past several, and continued for the past several years. Mrs. Hall has also been willing to work with all students trying to find new ways to help them reach their full potential. For many years, Mrs. Hall was a lead mentor and worked with many of our new teachers and student teachers to prepare them for their own careers. She has been dedicated to her first grade team and has a passion for working with students and parents. Mrs. Hall's daughter also, Julie, graduated from South Range. Her name is Julie Hall. Mrs. Hall looks forward to spending time with her husband, Carrie, reading, gardening, traveling after retirement. And then I also ask that you accept the retirement of Pam Lay, effective May 21st, 2021. Pam Lay has been a teacher at South Range Elementary for the past 35 years. She started her career as a kindergarten teacher and is finishing her 35th year in 3rd grade. Pam's children, Jared and Bryn, both graduated from South Range. Mrs. Lay has been a member of various committees, always has been open to including all students and staff in their classroom, and has been an excellent team member of our elementary staff. She was an integral part of creating a team teaching approach in our 3rd grade and has been teammates with Mr. Irons for the past 14 years. Mrs. Lay looks forward to spending time with her husband, Doug, and traveling to see her children after retirement. I worked with Mr. Matos, and hopefully we'll have them both here at the next meeting so we can honor them.
I'll just add a little bit, hopefully they are here, but my kids, some of them each had Mrs. Hall and Mrs. Lay, and as you said in that bio, they were just, you couldn't ask for much more. They went above and beyond with any kids that needed extra help. Both of them were there, and I would say that I personally think very highly of them as well, and I hope we can have them here at the next meeting to recognize them.
I'll make sure that, can I make a correction? I wrote in my notes, I put the 21st, it should say the 31st. So I will get that corrected.
Yeah, okay. With that, may I have a motion for personnel? Brian moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call, please.
Taylor Christian?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Brian Bagwell?
Next up, non-represented employees. Mrs. Carlson?
Okay, I'm asking that the board move that the South Range Board of Education approve the non-representative employees to also receive 1.95% pay increase and authorize the treasurer CFO to administer the increase to non-represented personnel, excluding myself.
May I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Amy moves. May I have a second? Second. Brian seconds. Mr. Phillips, roll call, please.
Taylor Christian?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Brian Bagwell?
And that passes. And next up, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Taylor moves. May I have a second?
A second.
Amy seconds. We are adjourned, and lastly, I do want to say, forgot to do this before we adjourn, sympathies go out to Mrs. Lally. The reason she isn't here tonight is her mother passed away on Friday, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her as well as her whole family. So please keep Mrs. Lally's family in your prayers here over the next few days. Thank you.